Last December, I pitched my business partners on a new strategy for our business because after 9 years, our business had flatlined and we were going in the wrong direction. The idea was we're going to run a paid acquisition, high ticket ad campaign. We're going to spend $100 a day with the goal of hitting $45,000 in revenue in the first 3 months. Now, the issue and the challenge with this is every paid acquisition campaign that I'd run for the business had barely broken even. But after 3.5 months since that December meeting, I'm happy to report we spent $23,000, we made $63,000, and here's how we did it. First thing you're going to do is make sure that your math works from the highest level. So like what you're seeing here on this spreadsheet, I priced out my program saying if I'm selling this for $3,000, how many, if I sold 5 of them, that would give me $15K in revenue. If I spent on a quarterly basis $3,000 per location for 3 months, that equals this amount. And then I factor in my commission, so you can see I'm losing $13,000 here, right? So I needed to sell 10 to break even. I need to sell 15 to make 14,000, and then I kind of extrapolated that out a little bit further. So when you do this, now you know that the high level maths out, and you're setting yourself up for like, okay, if we start winning, this is gonna make an actual difference. From there, it's like, all right, how do I figure out with my offering to make an absolute badass offer that lands in that 3K zone? So I started looking at, all right, what are all the core offerings that we do? What are the splinter stack? How do I split all these things out to show how much additional value that you get, tracking progress, all that other kind of stuff, just laid out in a more desirable format. And you end up finding like, yeah, the math actually does come close to what I would need it to be to sell $3,000 or $6,000. From there, we get into figuring out, how do I know if my campaign is profitable? How do I know if I'm tracking on the right metrics? You have this target cost per acquisition, and all you do is you reverse engineer your pipeline to know if you're tracking or if you're not. $3,000 on this campaign. The fulfillment's here. I added a buffer because maybe I was wrong. That gives me a gross profit right here of $1,800, right? Then I just looked at my pipeline and said, okay, what are each of the stages of the pipeline? If I start at the end, I've got closed 1. Well, they need to purchase a consult. Then they actually have to get on a phone to purchase a consult. And you just look at what are all those potential percentages, what could they be, and make them conservative. And that will give you some rough math on, okay, if our pipeline numbers were this, you need to get this many leads. You need to have this many calls. This many calls have to close, so on and so forth. And this is a perfect use case for AI. So most like marketers or whatever like me, like freeze up when I see spreadsheets like this and stuff. You can get your pipeline stuff down. You know what your conversion percentages is. Then you just ask AI to help you kind of reverse engineer and figure these pieces out. So I ended up landing on, okay, $140 is my target cost per booked call. I care more about cost per calls because I know leads might not show up to a call. Leads might be good, they might be bad, but I know that if I'm getting calls, that's a more reliable upstream metric that I'll be able to track and depend on. Then you can see, okay, what's your target per cost per consultation, and then what's your target customer acquisition cost. And this tells you at the end of the day, if you're right around that target cost per acquisition, the furthest down the pipeline that you can get, that you know you've got a profitable campaign. If it's way above that, then you know, okay, I have to work on some things, either spending less or increasing my profitability per offer to make this more profitable. Then it gets into the fun part of actually making the creative. So the most fundamental important thing is testing for message market fit. You've got a set of customers. You've got a set of universal problems that your product or service solves. All your job is to do is match those two things to find the most profitable angle and appeal. And so, for example, in this campaign, I could run a menopause angle. I could run a GLP-1 angle. I could run a high school athlete angle. Those are all 3 different appeals. One of those might be more profitable, and you don't know on the offset when you're going to make the actual campaign. So you do your best to make the creative as good as it could possibly be. Then you start putting it out there and get data back from Meta to start to determine, okay, what do we think is going to be more profitable? What's working, what's not? So over here on the left, I've got some ad, research. You want to be making ads that are actually, able to convert. I've got a bunch of ideas here. And then I was just shaping my creative. I'm writing copy in this. I'm doing, some of the different angles and appeals. And I'm just putting all this creative down there to see kind of what's working and what's not. From there, you get the ads and then you move them into Ads Manager. So this is the back end of Meta. You can just see here, like all this is just a bunch of different campaigns because I'm constantly testing stuff, right? I'm learning as I'm going. I don't know any of this on how to do this stuff, but you just figure it out with YouTube and all that kind of stuff. If I click into here and I sort by amount spent, I can see what my cost per booked call is. So you got a little bit of work that you have to do to get this stuff set up, but I can start to see like, okay, this was booking below my target cost per acquisition. And I can see, you know, a lot of these different appeals. What is booking cheap calls? And then from there, I got to know like, all right, are these calls showing up and what's the quality of these calls? Which moves us to this last sort of view here. I've got my HubSpot view, all the different leads that have come in through this campaign. I can see what stage of the pipeline that they're in. I can see, have they booked calls? Have they showed to their calls? And then one big unlock was also adding and tagging lead quality on these calls. So you can see down here, I've got a good lead and a good lead, bad lead here, good, medium. Some of these other ones are untagged because we haven't had a call yet with that person. But this is just a subjective temp check from your sales team. Is this a good, medium, or a bad lead based on that sales call? Because if you're not selling consults yet on the phone or like a bona fide sales action, you want to know, well, is the marketing, is stuff happening positively in front of that sale to know if we're actually, you know, these ads and these creatives, they might be generating cheap calls, but if the calls are shit, then that's not a good ad for you. Where if you've got another one, maybe your target cost per book call is a little bit high, but you got 5 really good leads on those, then that's something that you want to know. So 40K isn't just a number. It's profit. It's commissions to our staff. It's money we can deploy back into an advertising campaign to get more clients. It's money that we can take home as business owners who are constantly grinding on this thing and oftentimes just barely breaking even so this machine can continue to run. But also for me, it was proof to my business partners that this promise that I had made of we're gonna make 15K, here's how we're gonna do it. It was a 3.5 month delay and then bam, it actually happened and we ended up making more money. Like that for me was the biggest unlock. And what I'll remember, what you can take away from this is when you focus on income generating activities, that becomes the only thing that you do. You wake up in the morning, if you have that creative sort of energy, your one thing that you do, spend it on the most important income generating activity that's gonna have a positive impact for your business down the road and you can't go wrong. I just did it for 3.5 months. I got some real results, got some real money. It works.